If you ever wanted to go back to the older days of Roblox, you could always play one of those old Roblox simulators, and this one I'm about to show you is no different. This is Project ACERG by Aaron107, and from the description it's known as a hub to store games with the style of 2006 to 2013 Roblox. However, unlike other simulators, some of the games hosted here are not quite what they seem. But before we get into that rabbit hole, let's quickly go through all of the seemingly normal ones first. This game, said to be created in between 2005 to 2006, is a simple building game using the old Roblox building tools. If you haven't noticed already, the look of this place resembles the 2010 Welcome to Roblox building game created by Roblox. However, it is much smaller and seems to only have one plot. I messed around for a bit, but I couldn't find anything other than I could destroy the whole map, so let's just move on to the next one. Apparently, this game is a lost re-upload of a brick battle game created by a Roblox admin, and judging by the look, it is very fitting for sword fighting. Looking around the map, the only thing I could find were these two portals that led to this elevated bridge. And while that was the only thing I found, this game still feels kinda off to me. The idea of being lost in heaven and having to fight to the death while also having to look up to infinitely tall pillars is kind of eerie, especially when I'm by myself. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Moving on to this game, it seems like it's a party place for the owner, Aaron107, and it's interesting, to say the least. Ignoring all the epic faces, you can actually head to this computer where it teleports you to another game called Where's the Epic Face? The game itself is pretty basic and kinda weird, so let's just move on to the next game. The last quote-unquote normal game on here is Brick Tycoon. I thought I was gonna get something when I finished my Tycoon, but there was nothing. I also saw that there was a VIP room, so I bought the shirt, and it still didn't let me through. Well, there goes my 5 Robux. If you made it this far, we finally made it to the unsettling games part, and starting off with this one, it's just strange. I don't know what do-rat means or if I'm even saying that right, but there seems to be nothing else in this game other than these moving NPCs. The same goes for the next game, The Great Elm's Place, where the description says to say its name. I tried saying its name, but it turns out the chat doesn't work at all. The only thing in this game seems to be this strange statue with images of who I'm assuming is the Great Elm himself. Let's go to the next one. Now, at first, I thought this game was completely normal, so I stayed in the game and just started messing around for a bit. But then it suddenly turned night, so I decided I was going to wait until daytime again before I left. But as I was waiting, this happened. It looked like a teleporter, so I went through it, and as expected, I was teleported to this weird subplace. In here, you're completely surrounded by buildings, and it also seems like there are other portals like this one that you could go through. There are also these two NPCs called the Fella and Killbot that are in here with you. These are the only lines they say when you talk to them. This was the last thing I was able to find, so let's move on. Out of all of the games we have covered so far, this one just might be the most surreal. The map design is strange, and all of the rooms are disjointed and unrelated to each other. I mean, look at these emojis. Oh. Anyways, there's a shopkeeper named Dave that gives you these 2 items for free. One thing that I noticed is that every time I rejoined, he seemed to be in a different place with his shop. This was also the case for this chalkboard in the classroom, as a math equation would change every time I rejoined as well. However, I couldn't say the answer in chat because it was also broken. One of the times I rejoined though, the chalkboard actually said this instead of a math equation. Why aren't you happy, Henry Robloxian 15732? I gave you a very special gift. Be grateful or I will take it away from you without a choice. Right now, I have no idea who this Henry person is or who wrote this in the first place, so I'm gonna brush this off for now. What I do want to touch on though are these bricks at spawn that have a sign that says not to knock them over. And while I only died after knocking them over, I actually played this game a year ago, and when I knocked them over then, this happened. You were teleported to John's puzzle game, which, if you didn't know, is actually the oldest known game built on Roblox's software, however it is currently lost media. After a bit of waiting, a message starts to take over the screen. Hello? I'm surprised you found this place. This place is an origin point, the start of it all. And you? We're stuck here and you're not supposed to be here at all. Goodbye, don't break the rules next time. Hello there, you seem to be a fan of Roblox, Come on, follow me. I will bring you to a place where Roblox is everywhere. Don't be afraid. I will also give you a gift, a very special one. What's the gift? I'll show you in the room behind me. Do not follow him. Nothing happened after, so I left the game, but we're not done just yet. There's one more discovery that I want to show, and it's in the forest section of the map. When you walk to the far corner of the forest, there is a yellow ball on the side of a tree. When you touch the part, you're teleported to another Roblox game called 2004 Dump Truck. Just like the last game, this game contains a lost Roblox model from 2004 called Dump Truck. And again, after a bit of waiting, a new message takes over the screen that reads as follows. Hey, Jim, something feels wrong with this build of the game. It's like there's something about the game that is not right. It feels off. Do you know what is the problem that's causing me to feel this? If so, please, I beg you, fix this. Please. Hello. I see you found this second origin point. You should leave. Immediately. You aren't safe. You never will be. You will find answers soon, but it will be hard. This is the last discovery I found in Fun Game. If you don't know somehow, this game originates from the infamous Smile Creepypasta from a couple years ago, and nothing seems to be changed from the original map. However, when you eventually go up to the head and touch it, this happens. You must get to the other side before you're caught by these NPCs, and when you almost get there... Just you and me now. All you can do is walk to me. Accept it. You are trapped within your own mind. You try to escape, yet it drags you right back in. Come with me, and when we're together, we can smile. You have no other option than to touch its head again, and when you do, you're kicked from the game with this message. Let's go to the next game. This game seems normal, other than the fact that there's a huge pit in the middle. And when you ignore the sign and jump in, this happens. After a bit of falling, you're now stuck in this dark pit, and in the distance, a sound can be heard. It turns out that the sound comes from a flashing TV, and there's a blue pad right next to it. When you step on the blue pad, you're teleported to a maze, and it's still completely pitch black as before. I thought I'd be here for a while, so I ended up just hugging the right wall, hoping that I would eventually find something. And by a miracle, I actually did when I faced through this wall. The text that appears shows the first tragedy, and lists 4 children's names that are presumably passed away. I kept exploring after this, and I eventually found this red pillar that teleported me to a long hallway. On one of the doors, there's a text pad that says, Breaking news, hit video game Roblox causes a fatal fit. Yesterday around 10:28 AM, a short circuit fault in Roblox's server room causes multiple young children to be hospitalized with severe damages caused to them and their families. Was it really an accident? If we keep walking, there's one more text pad that reads, Soon after the incident, the technicians that worked with Roblox were mortified of what happened soon after. At 11:37 AM, strobes of brightly colored lights were exposed to several more children outside the server room due to that same fatal fit, causing them to have serious cases of seizures. It did not last for long. When we reach the end of the hallway, we're met with an open door, and that's where we're teleported to the starter place home. Inside the house, we're met with the same TV we saw when we first entered the pit, and we also see that someone is blankly staring at it. The text pad reads as follows. The flashing lights also travel to some of the screens of the children that were playing the game. Because of the serious medical hazard that the flashing lights caused, Roblox pulled their servers offline for about 5 hours just to try to fix this fatal issue. But because of the incident, some of the hospitalized children did not survive. They did not fix the issue. With this last discovery, there's quite a few things to unpack, but we'll get back to that in the last part of the video. For now, let's move on to the last game. This is the final game hosted on this simulator, and it's arguably the most disturbing. It looks normal at first, albeit kinda empty. However, if you fall off the map and die, this happens. Everything turns monochrome and your avatar gets changed to this gruesome look. A tower also appears that at first seems out of reach, but there's an invisible path to get to it. Once you get to the top, however, this happens. You're teleported in what seems to be a test lab, and right beside you are 2 other players that have the same look as you. Exiting the room, you're led to a hallway with a locked door that leads to a long railway. The buttons for the platform don't work, so we have to walk the whole way. On the other side there lies an elevator, and unfortunately the buttons don't work for that as well. I tried to find anything else after that, but I couldn't, so I left the game. Well, that was a fun exploration. I hope you're still with me. Anyways, let's firstly try to connect the story inside the pit game, because that one contains the most information out of all of them. Following the story, it seems that Roblox had caused the hospitalization of many children due to short circuits in their server room and strobes of light causing seizures outside of the server room. And if the 4 children who died were from this situation, we can say that this all happened on April 28, 2008. Additionally, the news says that while Roblox took the server down for a few hours, they never actually ended up fixing the issue. This is where we look at the fun game and go back to the first origin point message. The last part of this message is interesting because it seems that whoever is saying this is trying to lure us into going in the room behind them to receive a gift. The next text says to not follow him, and this might be because the room we will go into is the server room, which may cause us to suffer the same fate as the other children. This theory, if true, flips the entire story on its head whether or not if this was really an accident or if Roblox actually intended to do this in the first place. Regarding the second origin point message, the gym that this person mentions might be Jimothy Gaming's 2009, but that might be a stretch. With the other text, I honestly don't know how to connect it to our current story, other than that something bad is probably going to happen to this person soon. Now regarding the hidden place in Jimothy's game, the only thing I could touch on is that there are 3 other free bricks models that can serve as portals, but we haven't found a way to open them yet. All I can say is that these same models show up in the building place, Rice Aaron's party place, and the pit place, which is exactly enough to fit all 3. Therefore, this means that if all the free bricks models are portals, we could find a way to open every one of them. It's just that I only found a way to open Jimothy's. And while that may be another stretch, as far as theories go, this is all I got. So I'm encouraging you guys to join this game and find more stuff that I possibly missed, and maybe piece together a more coherent story than this one in the comments down below. If you watched this entire video, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time.